The smell of burning paper. That is how I discovered my wife had betrayed me. I walked into our suite and saw her with his arms around her. She kissed her ex in our bed while I stood in the doorway. How could she do this? I had come back to the hotel like a poor man, but I had lied. I had hidden money and a new name. She did not know the truth. However, my heart was breaking. I took one breath, then I smiled very small. I had a plan to make her pay. Would she see who I was now? I left the door quietly and booked another room at the same resort. A bellboy carried my bag. I waited in the lobby with a different face and a full suitcase of secrets. My name is Matteo. I say these words because I need the story clear. I was once poor. I married Elena because she loved me when I had nothing. We met in a small town. She promised me the world. Years passed. I worked in silence. I left for the city. I learned to run small hotels. I learned a lot about money and people. I saved every coin. I trained my voice to sound like a waiter, a driver, a different man. I came back to her with no ring, no watch, and a worn suitcase. Elena had changed. She wore a new dress and tall heels the day I returned. She smiled at me with a tired face. I felt a knot in my chest. I asked, "How was your day?" She looked away. She said, "Fine." Her phone blinked. A message came from a name I did not know. I felt cold. At night we slept in the hotel suite we could afford. I watched her while she slept. I held my breath. I thought of the man who waited outside the resort. A man from her past had returned. He had a car and a smooth voice. I saw the reservation paper on the concierge desk. The dates matched the man's visits. I tried to ask the receptionist, but my voice was small. I pretended to be a guest with an empty wallet. I wanted her to feel safe. I lied to her and to myself. I told her I had no job. I told the lobby staff nothing. In my room at night, I wrote a list. I wrote what I would do if I found them. I planned not to shout. I planned to watch and learn. I wanted her to feel the slow cold of a truth she could not stop. The next day there was a knock at our suite door. Elena opened it with a smile. He stepped inside like a king. He laughed and took her hand. I felt my stomach fall. I could see the concierge across the lobby. I could hear housekeeping near the elevator. I knew the whole hotel watched small things like smiles. I walked to the door and stopped. I had to decide, walk in or listen in the hallway. I chose the hallway. I pressed my ear to the wood. I heard his voice. He said, "You look better than before." Elena answered, "I waited for you." My mouth tasted like metal. The story would break here, but I kept listening. The bell from the reception desk chimed. A vacancy sign flickered. I needed to know one thing. Did she still love me? Or did she only love the man with the car? Then I heard them kiss. I could not move. I thought of the secret I kept, and I thought of my plan. The hallway grew very quiet. What should I do next? I walked away from the door slowly. I needed a plan that would hurt without shouting. Revenge must be cold, I told myself. I checked out of our cheap room at breakfast. I went to the concierge desk with a different face. I spoke softly and paid with a new card. The receptionist smiled and signed my new reservation. I moved into a suite across the lobby. From my window I saw the pool and the entrance. I could see the couple arrive each afternoon. Elena dressed in bright colors. The man wore a sharp suit. They ate in the hotel restaurant. They took pictures with the complimentary champagne. I watched their smiles like a lesson. I used the resort's amenities to my advantage. I met the housekeeping staff and learned their times. I learned when the concierge took a break. I asked about the man's name and connection. The staff called him Carlos. Carlos paid for everything. He left tips like rain. I felt that old small fear, but now I had money. I bought a camera and a new suit. I did not want to be cruel in public, but I wanted the truth to come out. I started to plant small clues. I left a receipt for a pair of expensive shoes in our old suite. I asked the front desk to speak loudly in the lobby about the man's reservation. I placed a complimentary dessert for Elena with a note signed, "From someone who remembers." She read it. Her face changed color. I saw doubt push into her smile. Later, in the restaurant, Carlos raised a toast to Elena and said, "To new starts and old promises." Elena touched his hand. I stood and walked to the cashier. I paid for a bottle of wine and then went to the receptionist. I asked if the hotel had a public announcement. I lied. I said I had lost a passport. They agreed to help. The lobby was full. I pressed the button on my phone. A short video played on the lobby screen. It was a story about a man who returned to the city and bought his old hotel chain. The headline said the man in the clip was Mateo Ramos, a new owner. I let the words sit in the air. People turned. Carlos stopped mid-cheer. Elena's fork fell from her hand. The concierge whispered, Mr. Ramos." The woman at the reception stared. I walked into the lobby slowly. I did not run. I did not shout. I watched Elena stand. She looked small and then very tall. She stared at me and then at the video. Carlos tried to smile, but his hands shook. I felt a strange calm. The hotel staff looked at me with the word vacancy in their eyes. The housekeeping girl mouthed, "You own it." I nodded. Elena's face went white. She had thought I was poor, and that she chose a richer man. She had not known the truth. I said nothing. I let the lobby do the work. People began to whisper. I walked toward our table. The bellboy dropped a tray behind me. There was only one heart in my chest and it beat very loud. What would Elena say when I spoke to her now? I sat at the table across from Elena. The restaurant noise folded around us. Carlos left for a moment, calling a friend on his phone. Elena looked at me with the same eyes she had when we were young and broke. I remembered our promise to grow together. My hands did not shake. I told her, "I am Mateo Ramos. I bought this hotel." She blinked. She said, "You lied to me. You left and came back poor." I looked at her and I opened my hand. I had a small old photograph in my pocket. It was from the day we married in a town hall. Our smiles were wide and real. I put it on the table. I said, "I wanted to test what you love. You chose a car over us." Elena's lips moved. She said, "You asked me to move on. You said you had no future." The truth was messy. I had told her to let me go 2 years ago, because I needed to build what I had now. She thought it was real. She felt free when Carlos found her. I felt angry, but I also felt pain. I wanted the whole hotel to know the truth now, not in a quiet way. I stood and walked to the concierge. I asked for the speaker in the lobby. I told them to play a recording. The staff obeyed. The microphone crackled. I said, "This is for everyone to hear." I told our story, how I left to work, how I sent money in secret, how I saved for a future we both promised. I spoke with slow words so the lobby could hear. I said, "I did not want to bring shame. I wanted you to stay when I was weak." The lobby fell quiet. Elena covered her face with her hands. Carlos returned and saw the scene. He stepped close and asked, "Who are you really?" I smiled sadly and said, "I am the man you never saw, and I am the owner of this hotel." He laughed at first, then his laugh stopped. He tried to bluff, but his voice had no ground. I could see the concierge think of the reservation details and how he always paid. I told one more truth. I had proof Carlos had used the hotel to wash money. I had receipts and photos, and I gave them to the receptionist. The staff looked shocked. The reception called the manager. The manager asked Carlos to wait. He was quiet and then angry. Elena stood between us like a small island. She asked, "Mateo, why did you do this to me in public?" I felt a cold answer rise. I said, "Because you kissed him in our suite. Because you believed I was poor. Because you chose his money without asking me." Her mouth opened. She said, "I am sorry." But the word landed like a stone. The lobby watched. A housekeeping woman whispered, "I always thought you loved him." Elena's eyes tracked to a vacancy sign that flickered over the concierge desk. She realized then that her choices had a cost. The manager asked Carlos to step into the office. The receptionist said they would check the reservation and the payments. Elena left the table. She walked away from me and then into the lobby crowd. Where would she go? The bellboy looked at me and asked, "Are you staying?" I did not know the answer. The truth came out fast. The manager called security. Carlos's face lost color when the receipts showed he had not paid taxes. The receptionist asked Elena for her ID, and she could not explain why she had not noticed the small lies. People in the lobby whispered about love and greed. I stood by the concierge desk and felt both empty and full. I wanted revenge, but I wanted a lesson more. I walked to Elena and spoke softly. I said, "I wanted you to choose me for me, not the car or the wine." She cried and said, "I was wrong. I am sorry." The apology was small compared to the broken days. I asked the manager for one thing, to give her a chance to work in housekeeping. I did not want her to leave in shame into a richer man's arms again. I wanted her to learn what hard work felt like. The manager agreed. Elena looked at me with surprise. She took the housekeeping uniform that day. She cleaned rooms near the suite where we had first slept. The days were long and simple. She learned to fold towels and to say sorry quietly. I taught the staff to be kind to her. Weeks later she knocked on my office door. She had a new face, tired but honest. She said, "I know I hurt you. I want to fix this life with you, not for money." I looked at her and thought of trust. I told her, "I will not forget. But yes, we can try slowly." The hotel lobby felt like a different place now. The concierge smiled when he saw us both walk by. The bellboy said, "You made the right choice, sir." I learned that revenge can be a lesson, not only a wound. I learned to show a person who lost power how to find it back with work. In the end, the secret name I kept did not save love. Hard work and truth did. The lesson I give you is small. Money can test love, but true love grows from honesty and action. Would you choose the face of truth when it knocks on your hotel door?